Okay, over the last couple of weeks, we studied about business studies. We learned about what is a business and who are the stakeholders in the business and what are the different sort of like what are different business organizations, their classifications, their characteristics, and their importance. Now, from this week onwards, we are going to learn about accounting, accounting studies. So accounting studies is not a difficult part. It's a very easy part. Only thing is we have to understand the logicality behind the transactions, the elements of accounting, and all that. So it's very easy. Only thing is we have to lay our foundation very solidly. So when we see an item, when we see a transaction, we know which accounting element it is. අපි දන්නවා ඒක ඇතුලේ තියෙන ඒ transaction එක ඇතුලේ තියෙන්නේ asset එකක්ද එහෙම නැත්නම් liability එකක්ද එහෙම නැත්නම් income එකක්ද expense එකක්ද එහෙම නැත්නම් equity එකක්ද කියලා. එතකොට මේ පාඩම ඇතුලේදී අපි ඔය assets කියන්නේ මොනවද liability කියන්නේ මොනවද ඊට පස්සේ income එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද expense එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද equity කියන්නේ මොනවද මේ ඔක්කොමත් එක්ක අපි ගත්තම මොකක්ද business transaction එකක් කියන්නේ ඒ තියෙන transactions cash transaction වෙන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම නැත්නම් credit transaction වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ හැම දෙයක් ගැනම ඉගෙන ගන්න. So only thing is this is very easy. We have to lay the foundation very solidly so we can get it done super good. Okay, so the first accounting lesson is introduction to accounting. So we will be learning about accounting, objectives and need for the accounting, what is a business transaction, and accounting elements. They are assets, liabilities, equity, income, expense that is arising through various business transactions. So now in this lesson, we are learning about financial accounting. අපි accounting කියලා ගත්තම ඇත්තටම accounting ලෝකේ එක එක accounting තියෙනවා. Financial accounting කියලා જાතියක් තියෙනවා. Management accounting කියලා જાතියක් තියෙනවා. සමහරක් වෙලාවට තියෙනවා forensic accounting කියලාත් තියෙනවා. නමුත් මේකදී අපි හරියටම ඉගෙන ගන්න යන්නේ මේ financial accounting. Financial accounting කියන එක ගැන තමයි අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න යන්නේ. Okay. So we already completed these three lessons: background of business, business environment, and business organization. So we covered a lot. We covered three lessons, and now we are going to learn about accounting, objectives and need of accounting, and business transaction. So firstly, we should know what is accounting. What is accounting? Accounting is the process of providing information to the interested parties of business, stakeholders for decision making. Accounting කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Accounting is a information providing process. Okay, accounting is a information providing process. So there we have now in a business we already learned there are different interested parties. Okay, they could be internal, they could be external. අපි දෙවෙනි lesson එකේදී ඉගෙන ගත්තා. එතකොට මේ interested parties වලට එහෙම නැත්නම් stakeholders ලට අපි පළවෙනි lesson එකේදී ඉගෙන ගත්තා මේ interested parties වලට එහෙම නැත්නම් stakeholders වලට useful information දෙන්න තමයි අපි accounting process එක හදාන්න තියෙන්නේ. Okay, so accounting that provides financial information is known as financial accounting. So we are going to learn about financial accounting. What is financial accounting? Accounting that provides financial information is the financial accounting. Now, when we consider about accounting, we have firstly inputs. Those are transactions and events. Inputs, transactions and events. Then we have a process. We have a process. What is that process? Identifying, classifying, recording, analyzing, and interpreting. And finally, what we have is financial statements. එතකොට මේ diagram එකේදී අපි මේ කතා වෙන්නේ accounting වලදී වෙන accounting process එක. Firstly, we have an input and we put it into a process and we take a output. It's similar to baking a cake. We have flour, we have eggs, we have sugar, we have butter, and we take all these things and we identify them. We identify what is butter, what is sugar, and all that. Then we classify different things. Okay, and then we record what dose to be put and all that. Then we put it and take the cake out. So similarly, in accounting, we have transactions and events as the input. Okay, similar to sugar, butter, flour, and all that. We have transactions and events as the input. Okay, now the process, now similar to a baking process, we have a process called identifying, classifying, recording, analyzing, and interpreting. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මුලින්ම accounting elements identify කරගන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් accounting events identify කරගන්න. Then we classify them. We can classify it to cash transactions, maybe credit transactions, and counting elements. Likewise, we can classify. Then we record them. We record the transactions. If it is not recorded, we cannot do anything. After recording, what we do is we analyze. We analyze to which account these transactions should be put to, how to like sort of like uh, identify this, and likewise we are analyzing it. We are analyzing that accounting part, and then we interpret. Then we take the account and we interpret it. So finally, what we have is the financial statement. Similar to a cake, we have the financial statements. Okay. So let's start the note. So we can put the subheading as introduction to accounting. Sorry, main heading as introduction to accounting. Put the main heading as introduction to accounting. Introduction to accounting. Introduction. Accounting. And then we can start writing the note. Start writing from a new page. Okay. You can leave one page blank and then start this section because this is a new section. So you can put the main heading as introduction to accounting, and then let's start writing. Accounting is the process of providing information to the interested parties, stakeholders of business, for decision making. Accounting that provides financial information is known as financial accounting. Accounting that provides financial information is known as financial accounting. In grade 10 syllabus, accounting is referred only to include financial accounting. So if you have not completed it, take a couple of minutes and write this. Okay, if you have completed writing this, you can write this diagram, or else you can draw this diagram. You can write input on top like this, input. Let's say you can write input here, and then under that, transactions and events. And then you can write process here, under that, these. And then you can write it as output and write here. Okay. So I write this here, and you have to write this here, and you have to write this here. So we studied about accounting, what is accounting, and as we learn what is accounting, then there is the next part, the objective and need of the accounting. Okay, so providing information for decision making is the main objective of accounting. main objective එක තමයි providing information for decision making, not any other information, financial information. Based on this main objective, there are various other objectives. What are they? To know whether business has earned adequate profits. Okay, why we need accounting? To provide information for decision making. And under that, we should know whether business has earned adequate profits. Then to know whether the financial portion of the business is sound. To know whether financial portion of the business is sound. Then to fulfill legal requirements. To fulfill legal requirements, presentation of financial reports is a mandatory requirement by law for some organizations. අපි ලංකාව ගත්තොත් එimhe ලංකාවේ අපි ඉගෙන ගත්ත listed company එකක් නම් uh, like a presentation of financial reports is that is mandatory to minimize disadvantages arising through omissions of transactions and to organize financial activities. Okay, to minimize disadvantages arising through omission of transactions and to organize financial activities. What are the main objectives? To see whether a business has earned adequate profits. Main objective of a profit-oriented business is to earn profit, and we need accounting to identify whether it has earned adequate profits. Okay. Then to know whether the financial portion of the business is sound. We need to know the financial portion of the business. Is it sound? Financial portion of the business, is it sound? Then to fulfill legal requirements. Okay. Sometimes there are legal requirements. For example, listed companies, incorporated companies, they must produce financial reports signed by a chartered accountant. ඉතින් එතකොට ඒකට to fulfill the legal requirements. Then to minimize disadvantages arising through omission of transactions and organize financial activities. So we need accounting to organize financial activities and avoid omissions. අපිට වෙන අත්හැරීම් නතර කරගන්නත් financial activities organize කරගන්නත් අපිට accounting අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. Okay. Okay, then we can write the note. You have to put the subheading as objective and needs of accounting. I will read this out and then you can write it down. Providing information for decision making is the main objective of accounting. Based on this main objective, there are various other objectives. Okay, you can put a sort of like maybe let's say uh, providing information for decision making is the main objective of accounting. Draw underline behind this. And then these 4 points: to know whether the business has earned adequate profit, to know whether the financial portion of the business is sound, and to fulfill legal requirements. Presentation of financial reports is mandatory requirement by law for some organizations. Then to minimize disadvantages arising through omission of transactions and to organize financial activities. Write this down. Vinay, okay. Now let's look at what are business transactions. Now, this is an important part. Now, even in accounting process, we learned business transactions and events are the inputs in the accounting process. So we need to correctly identify these inputs. Those are business transactions and events. Okay. Business transaction is an exchange of resources between business and other parties. So when we see a transaction, we have to see, have we exchanged resources? Have we exchanged resources between two parties? Have we have business and then we have the other party. So have we exchanged resources like selling goods and receiving money? Likewise, have we exchanged resources? So if that is happened, then there is a business transaction. So business transaction is an exchange of resources between business and other parties. So what are these type of transactions? There are two types. One thing is cash transactions. The next one is credit transactions. So what are cash transactions? Selling goods for 50,000 in cash. So you have cash here. See, okay, you have paid in cash. Purchasing office supplies for rupees 5,000 in cash. Purchasing office supplies for rupees 5,000 in cash. Okay. Paying rent of 30,000 in cash. Receiving payment of rupees 25,000 from a customer in cash. So you can see there is a cash transaction. Then you have credit transactions. Selling goods on credit for rupees 80,000. Selling goods on credit. Providing services on credit for rupees 45,000. Providing services on credit for rupees 45,000. Buying inventory on credit for rupees, this is also on credit for rupees 100,000. So what we need to know is, what is a business transaction? Business transaction is simply exchange of resources between business and another party. Okay, within a business and another party. Okay. So in business transactions, we have two types. One is cash transactions, which is the settlement is made in cash. අපි ඒ වෙලාවෙම cash ගෙවනවා ඒ transaction. Then we have credit transactions. Those are selling goods on credit for 80,000, providing services on credit, or inventory on credit. There you don't pay cash, rather you do the transaction on credit. Okay, so business transactions, that is the process of exchanging resources between business and other parties, and you have two types. One is cash transaction and the next one is credit transactions. Okay, so in a business there can be various types of transactions. Among those transactions which their value can be measured in terms of money are considered in accounting. Now, in transactions, there can be lots and lots of transactions. Okay. In accounting, we identify the transactions where value can be measured in terms of money. අපිට ඒක cost එක හරියටම සල්ලි වලින් මයින්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. For example, sale of inventory for rupees 200,000. Sale of inventory for rupees 200,000. So we know it is 200,000. Monthly rent payment of rupees 30,000. So we know it is 30,000 rent. Obtaining a mortgage loan of 1 million. So we know it's a 1 million loan. Water bill payment of rupees 200,000. So we know it is a 200,000 payment. In addition to the exchange of resources mentioned above, some events that had occurred in the business are also considered in accounting. The exchange of resources විතරක්ම නෙමෙයි, අර අපි කලිනුත් කතා වුණා, some events උත් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. So what are they? Theft of inventory of rupees 15,000. එතකොට inventory එකක් හොරකම් කරලා තියෙනවා, which is valued 15,000. Write off an uncollectible buyer 4,500. So those are events. Even in these events, you can see its value can be measured. Okay, you can see its value can be measured. See, its value can be measured. Okay, so business transaction, we need a few things to know. What is a business transaction? Then cash transaction and credit transactions. So for business transaction to be identified, its cost should be able to measure in terms of money. Okay, and then there are events. Okay, to other than transaction, there could also be events that is identified in accounting process. Okay, then you can write this down. You can put the subheading as business transactions and then write this down. I will read it out and then you can write it down. A business transaction can be identified as exchange of resources between business and other parties. These transactions can be either cash transaction or credit transactions. Cash transactions refer to exchange of resources that involve immediate transfer of cash, meaning that the payment is made at the same time of the transaction occurs. Credit transaction involve exchange of goods or services or financial obligations without immediate exchange settlement of cash. Okay, without the immediate exchange, immediate settlement of cash. Okay, this is important. In credit transactions, payment is deferred to a future date, creating an obligation for the buyer to pay later and receivable for the seller. Okay. එතකොට credit transaction එකේදී මොකක්ද අපි කරන්නේ? අර payment එක අපි ඉස්සරහට තල්ලු කරනවා. We push it to the forward. So types of transaction: cash transaction, selling goods for rupees 50,000 in cash, purchasing office supplies for rupees 5,000 in cash, paying rent for 30,000 in cash, receiving payment for rupees 25,000 from customer in cash, and then credit transactions, selling goods on credit for rupees 80,000, providing services on credit for rupees 45,000, and buying inventory on cash for rupees 100,000. So take a couple of minutes and write this note. Then among various types of transactions, the transactions of which their value can be measured in terms of money are considered in accounting. For example, sale of inventory for rupees 200,000, monthly rent payment of 30,000, obtaining a mortgage loan of 1 million, water bill payment of rupees 2,000. In addition to exchange of resources mentioned above, some events that had occurred in the business are also considered in accounting. Example, theft of inventory, rupees 15,000, write-off of an uncollectible buyer, rupees 4,500. එතකොට මේ දෙක මේ parts දෙක ලියන්න. Okay, so far we learned about three things. What is accounting? Okay, and then the objectives of accounting, and business transactions. And now we are going to go for a very important part, that is accounting elements. අපි දැන් ඉගෙන ගන්න යන්නේ මොනවාද assets කියන්නේ, what are liabilities, what are equity, what are income, what are expenses, and what are they. So we are going to learn about them. Okay. So elements of accounting. As a result of business transaction, following accounting elements arise. Those are assets, equity, liability, income, and expenses. As a result of business transactions, following accounting elements arise. Those are assets, equity, liabilities, income, and expenses. So now we are going to firstly learn about asset. Okay, we are going to learn about asset. Understanding what is an asset. Okay, resources that are generated as a result of past transaction are simply called assets. එතකොට asset එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? A resource that is generated as a result of past transaction. For example, Brain Boosters company purchased a computer machine. Okay. Or as Brain Boosters company purchased a building for its business operations. So it's a resource. Okay, building is a resource. computer is a resource that generated as a past transaction, past purchase, past purchase. Then assets generate future economic benefits to the business. Assets generate future economic benefits to the business. If a machine that had been purchased by a business is used to manufacture and sell goods, the cash that follows the business in the future from that machine is considered economic benefit. If a machine that had been purchased by a business is used to manufacture and sell goods, that cash that flow into the business from future from that machine is considered economic benefit. The profit that are generated by the future sale of purchased stock is considered economic benefit. In any item that does not generate future economic benefits, that item cannot be considered as an asset. Okay. Now, firstly, we understood asset is a resource that is generated as a result of past transaction. And on the second thing is assets generate future economic benefits to the business. Assets generate future economic benefits to the businesses. So එතකොට මේ assets වලින් business එකට future economic benefits උත් generate කරනවා. ඒක තමයි වැදගත්ම දේ. එතකොට අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම මොන හරි machine එකක් ගත්තොත් මේ machine එකකින් කරන business operation එකෙන් revenue එකක් generate වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොන හරි building එකක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඒ building එකේ production කරලා ඒ විදිහට future economic benefit එකක් එන්න පුළුවන්. අපි stocks ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඒ stock එකක් විකුණලා economic benefit එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. So far to learn what is an asset, two things. One thing is assets is a resources that is generated as a result of past transaction. Next thing is asset generate future economic benefits to the business. Okay. Understanding what an asset is, then third thing. For an item to be asset of the business, it should be controlled by the business. එතකොට asset එකක් වෙන්න ඒක business එක control කරන්න ඕනේ. Okay. This means the business should be able to use that asset according to the discretion of the business and to make decisions on that asset. For example, above mentioned computers and buildings should be able to use by the business according to company's discretion. A building on rental basis cannot be considered an asset as it is not controlled by the business. ද අපි ඉගෙන ගත්ත asset එකක් කිව්වම three important things. One thing, it is generated as a result of past transaction. Second, assets are expected to generate future economic benefits to the business. The third is assets should be controlled by the business. Assets should be controlled by the business කියන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ මේ asset එකක් කියන එකක අයිතිය දෙන්න ඕනේ හැමතිස්සෙම business එකට. අපි හිතන්න අපි ගිහිල්ලා කඩයක් දානවා rent එකට. එතකොට ඒ rent එකට ඉන්න කඩේ කවදාවත් asset එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි මම මගේම තැනක දැම්මොත් එහෙම කඩයක් එතකොට ඒ shop එක asset එකක් වෙනවා. මොකද ඒක මට කැමති විදිහට control කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකේ මම ඉන්න කාලය මට control කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකේ මට modifications කරන්න පුළුවන් shop එකේ. හැබැයි මම rental තැනක හිටියොත් එහෙම it's not asset. Okay, it is not a asset. Okay, then next, to recognize an asset in accounting reports is cost or value should be able to measure reliably. ඊට පස්සේ හතරවෙනි එක තමයි ඒකේ cost එක එහෙම නැත්නම් value එක හරියටම බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. Machine purchased by the business at a cost of rupees 100,000. Machine operator has 10 years of experience and reputation in his good work. ද අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම පළවෙනි එක බලන්නකෝ. Machine purchased by the business cost 100,000 කිව්වම ඒකේ හරියටම ඒකේ 100,000 එක ගානට පේන්න තියෙනවා. ඒක කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ, ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. Then machine operator has 10 years of experience and a reputation for his good work කිව්වම මොකක්ද එතන තියෙන්නේ? එතකොට ඒක අපිට value එකක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? Machine operators 10 years of experience and reputation for his good work කිව්වම අපිට එකපාරට value එකක් දෙන්න අමාරුයි ඒකට. Okay, එතකොට අපිට ඒක asset එකක් විදිහට identify කරන්න බෑ. හැබැයි අර machine එක අපිට identify කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ වැඩ කරන සේවකයන්ගේ experience එක අපිට asset එකක් විදිහට identify කරන්න බෑ. නමුත් අර accounting වලදී okay accounting වලදී හැබැයි machine එකේ cost එක හරියට measure කරන්න පුළුවන් නිසා ඒකේ value එක අපිට business එකකදී asset එකක් විදිහට identify කරගන්න පුළුවන්. Okay. The definition of a asset. Asset is a resource controlled by the business as a result of a past transaction and from which future economic benefits are expected to flow to the business. Asset is a resource controlled by a business as a result of past transaction and from which future economic benefits are expected to flow into the business. So this is what an asset is. The following characteristics are observed of an asset. Arise as a result of past transaction. Past transaction එකක ප්‍රතිඵලයක් විදිහට තමයි asset එකක් හැදෙන්නේ. Controlled by the business. It's controlled by the business. Inflow of future economic benefits to the business. Inflow of future economic benefits to the business. එතකොට මේ characteristics ගැන තමයි අපි කලිනුත් කතා කරේ. Arise as a result of past transaction, controlled by the business, and inflow of future economic benefits to the business. And then there are two types of assets. When you are going to learn about assets, there are two types of assets. One is current asset, the second one being non-current asset. Okay, first one current asset, second one non-current asset. එතකොට දැන් බලමු මොකක්ද මේ current asset එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද මේ non-current asset එකක් කියන්නේ කියලා. The assets that are expected to be used, sold or converted into cash within a short period of time is called current assets. The short period of time is identified as 12 months in ordinary business activities. Example, stocks, trade is receivables. අපි asset එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? current asset එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? ඒ asset එක අපි පොඩි කාලයක් ඇතුළතදී cash වලට convert කරගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා නම් අපිට පුළුවන් නම් ඒක අපි current asset එකක් කියලා කියනවා. හරිද? උදාහරණයක් විදිහට stock එකක්. එහෙම නැත්නම් ව්‍යාපාර ණයට දුන්න කෙනෙක්ව. මෙයාව අපි ඉක්මනට cash බවට පත් කරගන්නවා. මේ short period එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි කියනවා 12 months කියලා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි කියනවා 12 months. All the assets that cannot be considered as current assets are considered as non-current assets. එතකොට current asset එකක් විදිහට identify කරන්න බැරි assets ටික අපි non-current assets කියලා identify කරනවා. So what are they? Land and building, machinery, furniture, equipment, and motor vehicles. Okay, so those are the non-current assets. So we learned about two things. Okay, we learned about elements of accounting. What are the elements? Assets, equity, liability, income, and expense. And then from that, we firstly learned about assets. Okay, the key things in asset: resource that are generated as a result of past transaction. Assets generate future economic benefits. Okay, and for an item to be an asset, it should be controlled by the business. Okay, to recognize an asset in the accounting reports, its cost and value should be able to measure. And then we learned about the definition of asset and its characteristics, which we already learned. And then two types of assets. Those are current assets and non-current assets. Okay, so we can write the note down. I will read this out and you can write it down. Put a subheading as elements of accounting. Then as a result of business transaction, following accounting elements are arise: assets, equity, liability, income, and expense. Okay, you can write it down. Okay, I will read out an sort of like example, so you guys can write it down. Okay, Kamala purchased a sewing machine. Sewing machine nakyo mahana mashimak. A sewing machine to her business. Kamala purchased a sewing machine to her business at a cost of rupees 50,000. Rupees 50,000. Let's see how this sewing machine is turned out to be a is turned out to be a asset of the business. Asset of the business. Kamala purchased the sewing machine at rupees 50,000. Kamala purchased. Okay. Kamala purchased sewing machine at a cost of rupees 50,000. This is an indication of this is an indication of this is an indication of generation of a resource within the brackets, write it as sewing machine. Generation of a resource within the brackets, write sewing machine. As a result of past transaction. As a result of past transaction. Past transaction එකට පස්සේ වරහණදල purchase at a cost of 50,000. Past transaction කියලා purchase at a cost of rupees 50,000. Further, it is also evident කියලා කියන්නේ සාක්ෂි සහිතයි වගේ කියන අදහසක්. It is also evident the cost slash value of the sewing machine, sorry, of the asset, the cost, and it is also evident the cost slash value of the sewing machine, වරහණක් දාලා ඉවරලා cost කියලා දාන්න. Sorry, වරහණක් දාලා sorry, the cost or the value of the sewing machine කියලා දාලා වරහණතල asset කියලා දාන්න. Can be measured reliably. Right? Then Kamala intends to sew frocks and sell to customers. Kamala intend to sew frocks and sell to customers. Meaningly, the purchased asset ඊට පස්සේ වරහන් ඇතුළේ යන්නේ sewing machine කියලා will generate future economic benefits. Future economic benefits කියන එකට දාන්න money received from selling frocks කියලා. Will receive future economic benefits කියන එකට දාන්න money received from selling frocks to the business. Right. ඊට පස්සේ ලියන්න this sewing machine is a purchased asset. Is a purchased asset. Or is this sewing machine is a purchased one කියලා දාන්නකො. A purchased one කියලා දාන්නකො. Purchased one and not a rented one. And not a rented one. And not a rented one. Therefore, Kamala has full control over it. Therefore, Kamala has full control over it. ඊට පස්සේ ලියන්න based on the above facts. Based on the above facts. The sewing machine is an asset. Is an asset. Okay. Okay. Then there are two types of assets based on their liquidity and the time frame within which they are expected to be converted into cash. These two types of assets are current assets and non-current assets. The assets that are expected to be used, sold or converted into cash within a short time of period are called current assets. The short time of period is identified as 12 months in ordinary business activities, stocks, trade receivable, cash and cash equivalents, short-term deposits. Okay. All the assets that cannot be considered as a current assets are considered non-current assets. They are land and building, machinery, furniture, equipment, and motor vehicles. Take a couple of minutes and write this. Okay, over the last session, we learned about assets. And now we are going to learn about liability. Okay, we learned about assets and now we are going to learn about liabilities. So what are these liabilities? Okay, obligations that are generated as a result of past transactions are simply called liabilities. We කලින් කතා වුණා resources that are generated, but this is obligation that are generated as a result of past transaction are simply called liabilities. Okay, obligations as a result of past transaction. So what are the examples? Bank loan, purchases on credits. Liabilities generate outflow of economic resources when settlement are made. So it generate what? Outflow of economic resources. To show a liability in the accounts, its amount should be able to measured reliably. To show a liability in the accounts, its amount should be able to be measured reliably. Okay. එතකොට අර account එක asset එකක් වගේම liability එකකුත් accounts වල indicate කරන්න accounts වල පෙන්වන්න ඒක හොඳට measure කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. හොඳට කියන්නේ ඒකේ cost එක එහෙම නැත්නම් value එක measure කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. So let's look at what is the definition of a liability. Liability is a payable of the business that had arose as a result of past transaction. Liability is a payable of the business that had arose as a result of past transaction. So it has several characteristics. It arises as a result of past transaction, outflow of economic resources when the settlement is made, and having a current obligation. Okay, so similar to segregation of asset types, liability types can also be segregated. Okay, so there are two types of liabilities. They are current liabilities and non-current liabilities. Liabilities that are expected to be settled within a short time period are called current liabilities or short-term liabilities. Okay, what liabilities that are expected to be settled within a short period. Okay, this short time period is identified as 12 months in order to business activities. This short time period is identified as 12 months in ordinary business activities. එතකොට අපි සාමාන්‍ය මේ short time period එකට කියනවා 12 months කියලා. Overdraft balance and trade creditors are such examples. All the liabilities that cannot be considered as a current liability are considered as non-current liabilities. All the liabilities that cannot be considered as current liabilities are considered as non-current liability. So what are they? Mortgage loan taken over 1 year is an example. What are the two types of liabilities? That is current liability and non-current liability. So we learned the characteristics of liabilities. Okay, liabilities are obligations that are generated as a result of past transaction, and when the liabilities are settled, they generate the outflow of economic resources, and it should be able to measure reliability to show them in accounts. Then liabilities, the formal definition is liability is a payable of the business that had arisen as a result of past transaction. So the last three characteristics we learned. And then two types of liabilities are current liabilities and non-current liabilities. එතකොට current liabilities කියන්නේ the expected to be settled within a shorter period of time. Okay. පොඩි කාලයක් ඇතුළත වෙනස් වෙනවා. පොඩි කාලයක් ඇතුළත ඒක ගෙවලා දානවා. උදාහරණයක් තමයි overdraft balance, trade creditors. මේ පොඩි කාලයකට අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කියනවා 12 months කියලා. Okay. Then all the liabilities that cannot be considered as a current liability are considered as a non-current liability. එතකොට current liability එකක් විදිහට identify කරන්න බැරි liabilities ඔක්කොම non-current liabilities. එතකොට ඒවට examples තමයි mortgage loan taken over 1 year. Okay. So then we can start writing the note. Just give me a couple of minutes so I can ask you a few questions. Put the subheading as liabilities. The formal definition of a liability is a payable of the business that had arose as a result of past transaction. For liability to be identified, several characteristics can be observed. They are arise as a result of past transaction, outflow of economic resource when settlement made, and having a current obligation. In addition to recognize the liability in accounting reports, its amount should be able to be measured reliably. Okay. So take a couple of minutes and write this. Okay, then let's write down an example to identify liabilities. Okay. Kamala obtained a bank loan of rupees 100,000. Kamala obtained a bank loan of rupees 100,000 for her business. Bank loan is an obligation. And is a result of past transaction. That is obtaining the bank loan. After obtaining a bank loan, monthly loan settlements should be made to monthly loan settlements කියන එක තන දාලා දාන්නකො monthly loan installments කියලා. Monthly loan settlements ඉරක් monthly loan installments loan settlements ඉරක් installments should be made to the bank, should be made to the bank, which is a outflow of economic resource, which is an outflow of economic resource when the settlement is made. When the settlement is made. Okay. Then let's move on to the next slide. So there are, I will read this out so you can write it. There are two types of liabilities. They are current liabilities and non-current liabilities. The liabilities that are expected to be settled within a short time period are called current liabilities, short-term liabilities. This short-time period is identified as 12 months in ordinary business activities. Is identified as 12 months in ordinary business activities. Example, overdraft balance and trade creditors. All the liabilities that cannot be considered as current liabilities are considered as not current liabilities. All the liabilities that cannot be considered as current liabilities are considered as non-current liabilities. Example, mortgage loan taken over 1 year. Okay, so take a couple of minutes and write this slide.